Welcome to the PTA Healthy Lifestyles Workshop. We hope you will find the information, inspiration, and resources you need to help your PTA create healthy environments in and outside of the school. PTA has remained focused on our vision and mission for over 100 years. This is our dream for every child, that every child's potential is a reality. The mission explains how we will accomplish our collective vision. That mission is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. These are words every student, parent, teacher, and community member should be able to support. The common bond among all PTAs can be found in our purposes. These PTA purposes help guide us in our work at all levels of the association. Your programs and activities should always be aligned with these purposes. As a national and statewide organization, PTA values collaboration, commitment, diversity, respect, and accountability. PTA observes the national standards for family school partnerships, and all PTAs should be able to welcome all families into the school, communicating effectively, supporting student success, speaking up for every child, sharing power, and collaborating with the community. Implementing these 6 standards will foster positive family engagement at your campus. Texas PTA has a cultural diversity and inclusion policy since July of 2012. However, in an effort to stay in alignment with the recently updated national PTA policy, the Texas PTA Board of Directors assigned a task force to update that existing policy. The task force produced and the Board of Directors approved the policy partially shown here on the screen in April of 2021. To see the full policy and find helpful resources from National PTA and Texas PTA, please go to texaspta.org/DEI-task-force. The duties of the local PTA executive board members are also listed in your local PTA bylaws. Foundations, Essentials, and Basics are the only training that Texas PTA requires every executive board member to take. Foundations Essentials is an introductory course for new PTA leaders that are all officers and committee chairs must take at least once in their PTA career. The course is offered online for a fee that is reimbursable by your PTA. The Basics series is a position-specific training and is required to be taken every time you are selected or appointed to a new role. Completion of the orientation ensures that all PTA leaders have the same base knowledge of PTA background, policies, and procedures. While the bylaws state new members must complete foundations requirements no later than October 15th, it's important that all PTA leaders complete the training during their first year of service, regardless of the date. Each officer and chair completes a written plan of work. These plans of work are presented to and approved by the executive board prior to the first membership meeting in the fall, and are used for budgetary planning and overall goal setting. A plan of work lets the executive board members know what each executive board member plans to do for the year so conflicts can be avoided and connections can be made to work together on common purposes. Bylaws provide an essential information for running your PTA. Read them thoroughly and become familiar with them. You must follow the bylaws at all times. Your PTA may also have standing rules which include the more procedural aspect of your PTA. Standing rules cannot conflict with or duplicate your bylaws. All members of the executive board are expected to attend all meetings of both the executive board and the association. If an executive board member does not have a report to give at the meeting, they are still responsible or have a responsibility as a member of the executive board to participate in the accountability and decision-making process. The confidentiality, ethics, and conflict of interest agreement is signed and adopted by the executive board each new term. All executive board members must sign this policy per the bylaws. This policy clearly defines the duties and responsibilities of all executive board members to conduct the business of the PTA in a responsible manner without conflicts of interest. An executive board member has a responsibility to be aware of the current activities of the Texas PTA and ensure that all records are accurate. The secretary and treasurer depend on the fellow executive board members to assist them in their roles by reading and correcting the reports. It is every executive board member's responsibility to recruit members. Your PTA serves as the front door to your association. You should seek out families in your school and community to encourage them to join and make a difference in a child's life. Your first duty in your PTA position is to recruit your replacement. The sustainability of your PTA is dependent on the strength of its leadership. Here's a sample plan of work for healthy lifestyles. Since there is no specific bylaws for healthy lifestyles chairs, you will need to check with your local standing rules for any additional duties. Developing a plan of work is a collaborative process. You can make an appointment with your PTA president, PE teacher, nurse, or counselor to identify your school's needs. For example, do they want more nutrition education or a physical activity program? Or is mindfulness routines and vaping a bigger concern? A few other things to consider when creating a plan of work are: start with just a few action steps if this is a new position, and only consider adding one or two if it's an existing position. And timelines are especially helpful. When identifying resources, consider all the online information such as texaspta.org or usda.gov for your Healthy Lifestyles Council chair, if you have one, and or local organizations and businesses as a starting point. And also consider defining that budget and looking at all types of revenue other than your local PTA budget. Are there businesses that are willing to donate prizes? Are there parents who would be willing to lead classes? Think outside the box and look to forge the school-home community collaboration for your PTA. And don't forget to measure success. Did the program work? Did you get the level of participation you were hoping for? Why or why not? And perhaps most importantly, this is where thanking those who helped and supported your efforts is critical. So why healthy lifestyles? While most of us might be aware that we have a childhood obesity epidemic, one that has tripled over the past few decades, the issue actually extends well past obesity. From heightened social emotional issues to exasperated healthcare costs, now is the time to start putting proactive measures into place for the health and wellness of the next generation. It's no secret that healthy kids are better learners and more successful adults, but trying to change environments can sometimes be challenging. A Healthy Lifestyles chair can help clarify why there is a need for school wellness initiatives, such as alarming statistics and other state mandates that parents might not be aware of. They can also share the good news about what is in place, such as evidence-based frameworks, policies, and other resources. And lastly, they can explain how parents can help by simply communicating the message and advocating for health. Here are some of the Healthy Lifestyles duties at a glance. Note, campus wellness teams can go by a variety of names, so if they don't have an established wellness team, a campus improvement committee or site-based decision-making team would be other options to check into. This is the whole child framework that used to be called Coordinated School Health Model. We use these two terms interchangeably because coordinated school health verbiage is still what is in Texas legislation. Basically, this model represents many components needed for the process of intentional coordination, which is ideally bringing a school community together to teach children to be healthy for a lifetime. When they updated this model, they separated out parent engagement and community involvement, which speaks to the importance of families and the role they play in health and wellness. The ultimate goal is to coordinate all 10 components. This continued support provides leverage for PTAs and schools trying to make a difference. So what about the good news? There's lots of it. From national, state, and local support, PTAs and parents have a myriad of tools and resources to help their voice be heard. In addition to the new whole child model, the Every Student Succeeds Act replaced No Child Left Behind and identifies school health and physical education as a part of a student's well-rounded education, along with other subjects such as art, music, civics, science, and more. State support continues with coordinated school health mandates. You can check to see what your school district has adopted for their coordinated school health program. There are 3 programs that are approved by the Texas Education Agency. They are Catch, Bienestar, and the Greater Body. All of these programs have resources for parent engagement and ideally should be going home as part of a coordination process. School health advisory councils are required to have one per district, not campus. SHACs provide input and guidance for all things health related, from adopting a new health curriculum to instituting a mandated recess policy. The SHAC must be made up of 50% parents, and a parent must serve as a co-chair. They have a very powerful voice for advocacy efforts in a district. And then lastly, local wellness policies are required by the state to provide guidelines for wellness, and each district has the autonomy to create stronger guidelines. So more continued support. We also see here that there are additional state and federal policies in place to support other areas. Schools such as nutrition, so schools may sell non-smart snack foods during the day on only 6 days per campus during the year. But organizations should work with their school administration before initiating a fundraiser to ensure compliance with the local wellness policy, smart snack standards, and other local policies. Physical education classes must be TEKS-based or standards-based. Structured activities, meaning unstructured recess, should not be counting for the state requirement of time, which is 30 minutes per day or 135 minutes a week for elementary schools. Middle schools are required to have 4 semesters, and high school students are required to complete 1 credit, which is 2 semesters. There is currently no state legislation for recess, but many districts are adopting local policy. Check with your district for recess or movement break requirements. Legal policy also governs bully prevention measures within districts now, and continued measures are being put in place for cyberbullying as well. The Healthy Lifestyles Resource Guide also highlights this information, as well as additional research articles showing links between healthier students and higher academic scores, increased attendance, and decreased discipline issues. And lastly, the National PTA and Texas PTA seek to address problems, situations, and concerns which relate to health and safety. From school recess to safe and civil climates, PTA is dedicated to supporting healthy lifestyles through legislative priorities, positions, and resolutions. So now what? Hopefully you have a better idea of why we need healthy lifestyles and what is in place to support it. And now we would like to share how your PTA can start taking the steps needed to support health and wellness initiatives. As you can see here on the screen, Texas PTA has identified 5 effective strategies that can assist local PTAs in creating a productive and sustainable healthy lifestyles program. They are communication, supporting partnerships, participating in programs, celebrating success, and advocacy. These 5 strategies are broken down into beginner, intermediate, and advanced categories in the resource guide. So no matter where you are starting from, there are multitude of ideas to help build your initiative. The first strategy is communication, and communication is key for creating awareness, but health and wellness can be a sensitive subject for some. So try to provide only factual information from reputable sources. So some examples that are taken from the Healthy Lifestyles Resource Guide, for example, beginner would include a wellness tip in an existing newsletter, such as healthy lunchbox tips, food reward ideas, ways for family to be active on school breaks, etc. An intermediate idea would be to share information from your district-approved coordinated school health programs, such as what are some Go, Slow, and Whoa snack recommendations from the Catch program, Heart Healthy Family ideas from Star, and other newsletters that can go home from those programs. Advanced would be incorporating wellness ideas into existing events, such as promoting healthy lifestyles at Meet the Teacher Night, or incorporating movement-based stories into a family reading night, or even simply distributing healthy tips during a PTA meeting. Programs and services are part of the foundation of what PTAs can provide. So an example beginner level strategy would be incorporating healthy fundraisers, such as non-food fundraisers, healthy food fundraisers, or active fundraisers. An intermediate step would be establishing partnerships with local businesses and seeing how they can potentially coordinate with a 1 week of Healthy Lifestyles Month. And an advanced level suggestion would be to coordinate with the school to take part in additional wellness programs with nonprofits and other programs that support Texas PTA, such as Action for Healthy Kids has an Every Kids Healthy Week, Marathon Kids has a home program, or It's Time Texas has a community challenge. Establishing partnerships within your campus and school district are just as important as identifying community partners to support your efforts. Partnerships are part of the coordination. So for a beginner would be to approach your school wellness team and inquire how the PTA can better support wellness efforts. To establish partnerships with local businesses would be an intermediate step, such as discounted tickets for a family night at a skating rink or bowling alley, cooking demonstrations with a local dietitian or healthy restaurant, or even an office supply store to create sensory pathways in your school hallways. An advanced level idea would be to establish partnerships with local service organizations such as AgriLife Extension agencies that offer assistance with school gardens and or cooking classes, or even local food bank programs that help with food insecurities. We do so much without the expectation of much in return, but don't forget to thank others and give yourself a pat on the back. Also, many awards come with monetary prizes, which can help your local PTA initiatives. Beginner level strategy would be to simply recognize parents, teachers, and school staff or the school leadership, such as your parents who help with various healthy lifestyles initiatives during the school year. Intermediate could be to share your success stories with Texas PTA. You can share them at healthylifestyles@texaspta.org and be recognized for part of your excellent work in either a PTA newsletter and or social media. Advanced would be increasing school relationships with offering to assist for applying for state and national grants. There are many identified in the Healthy Lifestyles newsletter or by supporting organizations found in the Healthy Lifestyles resource guide. PTA focuses attention on the health, safety, and well-being of all children through local, state, and national advocacy efforts. Beginner level would be just simply meeting with leadership to learn about local policy they have in place, such as extra recess instead of birthday parties, or at least one healthy food for class parties. Intermediate strategy would be joining the district's School Health Advisory Council, that SHAC. As mentioned before, the SHAC is a district level committee, and this would require extra time, which is why it's an intermediate strategy. But all local healthy lifestyles chairs can still follow what the SHAC is doing by keeping up with their agenda items and annual reports, thus keeping you and your PTA informed. Support federal and state healthy lifestyles related legislation would be an advanced level strategy. Could be, as mentioned earlier, the Texas PTA supports numerous health and safety legislative priorities, and they share information and action alerts with PTA membership during the legislative session. In addition to today's training, there are many other resources in place to help guide your efforts, from Texas PTA to national PTA. We have lots of resources to help. Additionally, there are many supporting organizations that support healthy lifestyles by offering free programs, grants, resources, curriculum, and more. And don't forget, these organizations can all be found in the Healthy Lifestyles resource guide. Overall, Texas PTA is committed to building healthy schools, healthy families, and healthy communities. We all have an important role to play in making sure parents, school staff, and community members have the knowledge and support they need. PTA is an effective starting point for both education and action. So the impact of having a healthy lifestyles chair is instrumental in getting back to the foundation of why PTA was created, for the education, safety, and health of all children. All executive board members keep a procedure book, either in print or electronically, which contains all the materials important to the work of their office or committee. This procedure book is passed on to one successor or the president within 15 days of the successor assuming the position. Your procedure book should include a copy of your bylaws, standing rules, current roster of your executive and committee members all items related to your position and meeting documents of both the executive board and your committee. Every single executive board member should be knowledgeable on the financial responsibilities of PTA. Below is basic information on the finances that every executive board member needs to be aware of. There is so much involved in the everyday financial management of PTA. These are the basics. For more detailed information, you can go to texaspta.org/treasurer. Fiduciary responsibility. So the Internal Revenue Services, IRS, is as included on the Form 990, requires reporting by nonprofits on a range of governance issues that reach far beyond financial reporting, including executive board member fiduciary duties. Executive board members have three fundamental fiduciary duties: a duty of care, a duty of loyalty, and a duty of obedience. A duty of care means that executive board members actively participate, attends executive board meetings, and is educated on the industry, providing strategic direction and oversees day-to-day operations. The duty of loyalty requires that executive board members to operate in the interests of local PTA and not use the position to further personal agendas. The duty of obedience requires the executive board to know the state and federal laws of regulation that apply. This includes the regulations and guidance issued by the IRS. Obedience to governing documents requires a deep understanding of the operating documents, bylaws, rules, and board manuals. Finally, obedience requires the board not act outside the scope of the organization's legal documents. Fiduciary responsibilities in a PTA means that executive board members act as trustees of the organization's assets and must exercise due diligence to oversee that the organization is well managed that its financial situation remains sound. The executive board verifies that all filing requirements and tax obligations are completed. The budget creates a framework for the program management and overall administrative decisions. An approved budget must be in place at all times in order for expenditures to be made and fundraisers be conducted. The budget is presented and adopted by the membership at the last membership meeting of your year and is amended at the first membership meeting based on approved plans of work submitted by the new executive board members. The members always approve expenses and income via the budget, which can be amended as needed. To keep people informed, the current financial report is presented at every regular executive board and membership meeting. As the funds belong to the members, they have the right to access the financial reports presented at membership meetings. Payments are never in cash, and bank checks should never be used. All payments must relate to an approved budget item and have a reimbursement form with a receipt and/or bill attached. No other organization may pass its money through PTA account in an effort to achieve tax-exempt status. The money can never be turned over to the school and/or principal to spend at their discretion. All monies are collected and turned over to the treasurer as soon as possible, and money is counted by at least two people at the same time. And both counters and the treasurer each sign a copy of the completed Texas PTA deposit form, and the treasurer may be one of those two counters. It's also Texas PTA's best interest to cover their treasurer and all other persons authorized to handle money with the fidelity bond and officer's liability to cover losses through any fraudulent or dishonest acts. Insurance premiums are budgeted as an expense line, and for more details on financial responsibilities of your PTA, please visit texaspta.org/treasurer. Texas PTA's membership year begins on August 1st. Membership recruitment should be occurring year-round. You can find all your membership awards on our website. Local PTAs must meet the following requirements each year to obtain active status. Remit Texas PTA national, state, and national membership dues for at least 20 members. Submit to Texas PTA the name and contact information of at least one current executive board member. And then local PTAs must comply with the following standards to remain in good status: maintain active status, report all members, and remit all state and national dues to Texas PTA each year, submit to Texas PTA the name and contact information, review all bylaws, standing rules every 3 years, and Texas PTA for approval, and each year within 60 days of the fiscal year end, electronically file and have accepted by the IRS the Form 990 return of organization exempt from income tax. This is sooner than required by the IRS. The outgoing treasurer should file the 990 as soon as the fiscal year end is possible. Texas PTA staff and volunteer leaders are here to answer any of your questions regarding your position. Our toll-free number is 1-800-TALK-PTA, or you can email us directly. And National PTA's website is another valuable resource at www.pta.org. Thank you for your time and attention for this Healthy Lifestyles Basics training. I hope the training has been beneficial and will make your work with PTA easier and more enjoyable. If you have any questions in the future, please know that you have field service representatives and council leaders that are always here to help. Thank you.